You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley with Insurance for Texans. We help church leaders protect their people and property with wisdom and clarity. Today, we are looking at church safety from a different angle. We are answering a critical question facing elder boards across the state. What qualifications do volunteer church security members actually need in Texas? Bob sat quietly in his office at his church out in Lubbock, staring down at an application he already knew was going to create a handful of problems. The application belonged to Frank, who had attended the church for years. He loved the congregation, and he was deeply passionate about protecting the church. In fact, he was one of the first people to step up when leadership announced plans to build a formal security team. On paper, Frank looked like a great candidate. He owned firearms, he possessed a valid Texas license to carry, and he was incredibly eager to serve. There was just one major problem. Everyone in the congregation knew Frank had a temper. Church business meetings had a habit of bringing it out, and it didn't take much for a simple disagreement to turn into a red-faced argument. Bob understood something that many Texas churches are only beginning to learn. Owning a firearm and being willing to serve does not automatically qualify someone to protect a congregation. So instead of making a decision based on personal feelings, Bob followed the church's newly developed screening process. Background checks were completed, references were reviewed, and character standards were evaluated. In the end, Frank was respectfully declined. Several months later, Bob's decision proved incredibly wise. A disagreement in the church parking lot escalated into a physical altercation that required law enforcement intervention. The church's screening process successfully prevented a potentially volatile situation from becoming far worse. Building a church safety team is a serious responsibility. Many churches assume that anyone with military experience, a law enforcement background, or a license to carry automatically qualifies for a security team. That assumption can create liability. A volunteer with a reputation for anger, poor judgment, or confrontational behavior quickly becomes a significant risk. When it comes to protecting a church, temperament matters. The most effective security team members are often the least noticeable people in the room. They are the ones who remain calm when others get emotional, who understand conflict resolution, and who can de-escalate a disruptive situation without turning a small problem into a major incident. The reality is that most church security situations never involve weapons. Teams frequently deal with child custody disputes, disruptive visitors, domestic conflicts, medical emergencies, or mental health episodes. A volunteer who easily becomes angry can make these situations dramatically worse, exposing the church to potential lawsuits and financial loss. That is why protection begins with character. A person can have a completely clean criminal record and still be a terrible fit for a safety team. Church leadership must look deeper. Evaluate how a candidate handles criticism and disagreements in other ministries. The goal is to find people who can prevent situations from becoming dangerous in the first place. Furthermore, real security training is about much more than firearms handling. A comprehensive ongoing training program must include topics like basic use of force laws, de-escalating disruptive persons, protecting children from abuse, communication channels during critical incidents, and managing mass trauma emergencies. Churches are not police departments, and volunteer teams do not possess law enforcement powers. Their mission is protection, not enforcement. The most valuable security volunteer isn't the best shooter or the person with the loudest voice. It is the person who demonstrates calm judgment, emotional control, and a servant's heart. Building an insurable safety ministry is an act of true stewardship. You don't have to navigate the vetting and training process alone. Through our partnership with the USCCA, Insurance for Texans can help your ministry access the frameworks, training logs, and guidance needed to build a legally sound, defensible safety team. Connect with our specialists today at insurancefortexans.com to schedule a custom risk assessment. And to learn about church insurance in general, download your free copy of our book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance Protecting Texas Churches. Until next time, remember, your church's mission is too important to leave to chance.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.